guys, here we go. Quick video update of the K24 Civic. Today I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit of the all-wheel drive setup we got going on. A lot of this information I wasn't able to share with you guys because when we were originally doing the whole all-wheel drive setup, we had really bad weather, and then at the same time I was learning so much that I was grasping all the information, so when I was ready I'd be able to transfer it on video and then kind of explain to you guys the way I did it and the reason why I did it with the parts I use. So there are several ways to go about the all-wheel drive setup. Actually there's about 3 or 4 different routes you can take when going with the all-wheel drive trailing arm, and then when you go with your all-wheel drive diff, your all-wheel drive mount. There's just so many different variations, different companies. Now the reason why I chose S1 mainly was because of the trailing arm. The trailing arm fits what we're doing with this car with the OEM theme. So they produced the OEM style trailing arm that fits the all-wheel drive axle and clearance. So what they do is they reinforce the stock arm and they put on this back piece, and then obviously your hub so you can go all-wheel drive. So a lot of different ways, like I said, about going all-wheel drive. This was just very clean and cost efficient. So now let's get into why I chose this setup. This particular setup here allows you to run the stock calipers, stock e-brake line, and then you can run a stock bushing, but I chose to go with the spherical just because with the all-wheel drive I wanted it to be a little bit more stiff in the back, just because the back tends to just squat. It's not too much movement going on, so we went with the spherical PCI. Real simple install. I believe I did a video on how to install that piece, and I'm redoing a few things under the car, which I will show you guys in a little bit, but I did take the time to make this video showing the parts we utilize. So stock brake caliper, S1 trailing arm, we have a skunk 2 camber, upper camber arm, and then we have our PCI bushing OEM e-brake line, and I did use the OEM inner camber arm also. With this arm is almost symmetrical to the way it sits OEM. Another reason why we went with this setup. So this setup has a lot to do with axle clearance as well, and the way we mounted the diff. So I'll show you guys the axle and diff. So I've already done this side real quick. I'll show you guys. Installed the trailing arm. Still need to button up all the bolts and stuff, but that's pretty much what it looks like. So I have the Skunk 2 Pro ST suspension, like I said, Skunk 2 upper, and then we have the Skunk 2 lower control arm. We did also upgrade to the spherical control arm for the rear lower control arm, again just to kind of stiffen it up, because like I said, the suspension action in the back, we just needed to squat and stay stiff and just roll as straight as possible. So I undercoated the car. What I did was I used undercoating where it was missing. So the car originally already had the undercoating here, and then all I did was take a semi-gloss, only because I wanted the gloss. I could have used just the undercoating and it comes out just as glossy, but I didn't want to use undercoating under the whole car because the car already had it from factory. So I was just looking. I still need to finish up the very back of the car. I'm gonna take off the bumper and tape off, mask off everything real nice. I want to redo the trunk white also, so just taking it step by step. But I did want to do all of this. Got the whole underneath done. So now I'm using the CRV diff. It's from a 2011, and this one has the dual clutch pack and dual pump assembly. So I'll go into a little bit more explanation. I'm gonna share the videos of my friend Brandon, Steak and Speed Garage. Make sure you guys follow him. I'm gonna share exactly what he did to my CRV diff, and then we'll go on from there.
So, got everything apart. As you see, this is the clutch pack assembly. We're going to go ahead and get this all taken apart and then show you guys how it works. There's a clip there, if you see. Just use a screwdriver, pry it around in these little slots. That'll come off, and then there'll be a plate, friction disc, and then there'll be another ring. As you see here, we have a little bit of play, so we're going to try to 86 as much of that as we can. So on here you have the dual pump setup. The quick spool has a plate, disc, and then another plate. As you see, that's pretty slippery. So I think if we change thickness of fluids, it'll give those a little bit more. And inside of here you have a spring that is measured. And then under here you have a shim. Make sure to pull this out right there. Okay, that's your shim. And then you have another C-clip in here, which is the bottom one. So if you see here, that play, we're gonna try to 86. Okay, got it all empty. I got one in there as like a test. So inside of there goes this bad boy right here. Okay, first one is this one. And we'll go ahead and put a little lube on those just so they have oil. There's not a dry, I mean, obviously it's all gonna leak out, but just something on them to not let them dry rub. We're gonna keep stacking those up and then go from there. Okay, here we have some little notches there that ride on this here, but unfortunately if you turn it like that, it'll just fall out. So you have to put it back sideways, get that back in there halfway-ish on both sides, and then turn this one to turn to the middle. Also forgot the thermal switch. Normally what stops this thing from working, just basically a plunge or whatever and release the oil from continuing on, so it doesn't work. We block that off there. So you just take the seal off of this one or put a new one, put that in there like so. That's done. And then
As far as drive shafts goes, we got a custom 310 joint drive shaft, and got it nice and bolted up here. So now for the axle setup, we have a 2004 driver's side rear axle. Only because of the way we placed our diff mount. Our diff mount is actually over to the left a bit. So I'm gonna finish up installing the trailing arms. I'm gonna roll the car out, need to clean up the garage a bit, and then we'll go under the car and I'll explain everything we got going under here. Alright, here we go, boys. Just because we're under here already, I'll show you guys kind of like what I did. Just kind of cleaned it up. Not the best job ever, but way cleaner than what it looked like before, that's for sure. So got it all cleaned up. Got our axles installed. I'm gonna finish bolting everything down, making sure everything's nice and safe back here. Still gotta button up all the bolts like you guys can see here. Alright, so there she is, boys. All done. Sitting on all fours. And looking quite lovely under there. Way cleaner than I expected. So super happy with the car. Got a bunch of upgrades. We got our turbo system coming up. We got our fuel system coming up. So just got a bunch of stuff going on with the car. So little by little, I'll be giving you guys a little bit more content. So comment, subscribe, and let me know what you guys think.